and welcome to our ReggieCon panel discussing My Favorite Thing is Monsters 2 in celebration of LGBTQ+ History Month. My name is Jana Albrecht. I am the Associate Vice President for Enrollment Management here at Illinois State University. Before we begin the panel, I have just a few details to keep everything running smoothly for all of you in the audience. First, we do record the session and it will get posted to the ReggieCon website. Second, if you're going to need confirmation of your attendance for tonight's event, we'll post a link towards the end of the panel so that you can complete that. Third, the presenters' videos and audio are on, and so they can hear each other, but they can't see or hear you as guests. So we'll go ahead and monitor the Q&A function, and we do encourage you to ask those questions of the presenters early and often. It really is one of their favorite parts of the panel. So, ask those questions as soon as you have them, and know that the panelists will get to those as soon as they can. Last update, and that's just more of a reminder to check our ReggieCon website for previous panels. They're all fantastic. And so also you can stay in the know for future panels and future events. So enough of our housekeeping. At this time, I have the privilege to introduce our fearless leader, Dr. Scott Jordan. Dr. Jordan is our former chair of psychology here at Illinois State, and he also happens to be our moderator and a panelist for tonight's discussion. So Scott, please take it away.
Thank you so much, Jenna. Welcome, everyone, to ReggieCon, the con that asks the question, hey, what's your story? As Jenna said, I'm Dr. Scott Jordan, a.k.a. Zombie Scotty. I'm a cognitive scientist philosopher here at Illinois State University. And tonight we come together to celebrate LGBTQ+ History Month with a discussion of award-winning author-illustrator Emil Ferris's My Favorite Thing is Monsters, Book 2. Joining me in tonight's discussion is a crew of amazing pop culture aficionados. First, Dr. Kellie Wallace. Kellie, please come on into the Zoom room. Tell everyone who you are, what you do, and why you love comics.
Hi, all. My name is Dr. Kellie Wallace. I use any and all pronouns, so feel free to use what you're comfortable with. I'm your friendly neighborhood comic criminologist. I'm an associate professor of criminology at LaSalle University, which is in Newton, Massachusetts, right outside of Boston. I grew up on comics and reading all things fantasy, sci-fi fiction. Grew up watching TV shows and movies in those genres as well. So there's a lot of nostalgia there for me. It's also just deeply rooted in my veins. Reading as well, sort of like Poe and Lovecraft and things of those nature. So I just love any opportunity to talk about the weird and misunderstood. So thanks for having me.
No, thank you for being here. And full disclosure, Kellie and I have done multiple panels together at Comic-Cons. She's amazing on stage, wonderful person. So glad that you can be here.
Thank you.
Now joining, you're more than welcome. Now joining us, ISU doctoral student Farhia Osman. Farhia, please come in and tell everybody who you are, a little bit about what you do, and why you love comics.
I am a fourth year in my doctoral program in school psychology here at ISU. I work with young students and young people as well as up to adults. However, my research is really in identity and specifically gender identity and play within tabletop role-playing games. And overall, just a big nerd, a geek. I love all things fan and fandom. I say my experience with comics began with the X-Men specifically, and that's how I got into comics, and then graphic novels, and now I'll read really anything. Loving the form that graphic novels and comics really bring, to be able to see like the visual and the text. And I am excited to be here today then.
No, I'm excited that you're here as well. And before we started, I heard a little more about your love of D&D and Dungeons and Dragons. And just to let you know, back in the day, I was one of those kids in the basement playing at a piece of Formica tabletop with markers and stuff. Yeah, I was the dungeon master. We'll have to talk about some of the nefarious dungeons I created because people love their characters, and there's research to show that they actually go through grieving when a character dies. So it's a very emotionally involved game. Absolutely thrilled you're here. Next, we have ISU alum Maisha Orthy. Maisha, please come in and tell everybody who you are and say a little something about why you love comics.
Hi, everyone. I'm Maisha, and I am an ISU alum. I did my master's in ISU, and now I am a first-year PhD student of cognitive science at University of Utah. Although I'm a cognitive science student and my research is not related to like pop culture at all, it's very hard and fast, like cog science stuff, like vision science and stuff like that. But I call myself a pop culture nerd because I kind of get into any types of like pop culture related things. And my experience with comics started with like the Flash. So I am not a big DC fan, but Flash is definitely one of my favorite superhero. And through that, I enjoyed the cartoons more, and then I got into manga, and I read more manga than other graphic novels now. But since last 3 or 4 years, I got into graphic novels. So I like storytelling a lot. So I think this is a good way to tell people a lot of difficult things. So.
Love it. And by the way, you can tell people that you are a pop culture scholar. You gave a talk at an academic conference. We did a panel at the Pop Culture Association National Conference in Chicago last spring. Oh my God, what are they and what are they eating? Power and consumption in manga and anime. And we had a lot of fun. Absolutely.
Yes.
Or what are you exactly? So
It was an
absolutely
amazing
thrilled.
experience, and I got to talk about One Piece, so I was really happy.
No, it was a lot of fun. We'll have to make sure we do it again. And now, ladies and gentlemen, one and all, it is my distinct pleasure to welcome back to ReggieCon our very special guest, author and illustrator, should I say award-winning author and illustrator of My Favorite Thing is Monsters Book 2, Emil Ferris. Emil, please come in and tell everybody who you are, what you do, and why you write comics.
Well, I just decided to kind of make it a
That's
little
awesome.
and a little
Oh,
more.
I feel like I didn't cosplay. I should have done.
All that talk about cosplay, and I had to
I
get
tell you,
the hat on.
that's awesome.
Who am I? I don't know. I I made this book, and you read this book, and so I'm so grateful for that because otherwise I would have been. I think I would have died had you not done that for me. I appreciate it enormously, and I enjoy the fact that the world I created, you added your beautiful self to it, your imagination, you inside of it. Very appreciative for that. Am I close enough so that you can actually see me? I turned a little more light on because I realized I was in a crypt. But anyway.
No, it looks great, and you look great, and thanks for being here. Yeah, we're going to talk about your book because, man, did it hit everything. And it was so well done. So before we
May I
Go ahead.
just tell you how honored I am to be here, how much I've enjoyed my conversations with you, Scott. And
No.
few of you are people who I met before, and it was really fun to meet you then. And it's exciting to meet you now, and loved your program. I think it's really, really important. And it just, every time I talk to you, Scott, I just think, boy, there's just so much I don't know in this world, and I'm enjoying.
No. You made me start crying over here.
That would be fun. I would enjoy that. No.
No, you're so sweet. Thank you so much. Just so everyone knows, Emil and I had a wonderful conversation earlier in the week. And as you'll see in the very first slide I present, we have a shared Chicago history that I know about. So I will talk about that. Before we start talking about this fantastic book, I do need to take a moment to thank those people who every month make us look like we know what we're doing. I want to thank Sean Thornton, who does all the artwork for ReggieCon month after month. Just amazing stuff. One of these days, we're going to do a fundraiser and we're going to give away a collection of Sean prints as one of the donation whatever we call them, awards or whatever. And of course, Dr. Jana Albrecht, she's the director of student success here at the university, a very strong supporter of ReggieCon. Couldn't do it without her, very much appreciate it. Summer Simmons, you've all met her earlier as well. She worked with Jana over in the provost's office, and her support helping set up the webinar spaces and manage them is just fantastic. Danny Schroeder works over in university management and marketing and communications. She works with Sean to make sure that we get these images together correctly. And then Miss Kellie Harmon there, she's the lead staff member in the Department of Psychology. She helps out making sure I'm working the budget correctly because I need a lot of help when it comes to that. And then last year we started posting reels advertising ReggieCon, upcoming ReggieCon panels, and Julie Mane Perez over in marketing and communications has been posting those for us. And I know the numbers I'm going to give you are not social media numbers, but our reels have gotten over 70,000 views, which is cool. And we always have student music that's underlaying the visual part, so it's fantastic. All right, there, I blabbed on enough about that. Yeah, so what I'm going to do here, I've got to go back to that screen. I'm going to go back to that screen because I just want everyone to know that last spring, ReggieCon Live 2024 occurred over 4 days. We had over 13 events here on campus. And I've written a report that's amazing about what we did. You can go to that QR code if you like, and it'll take you to the report, or you can just write ReggieCon into the Google machine and it will eventually take you there. We will be doing a ReggieCon Live 25 this spring. It won't be a big weekend event. It'll be bringing 4 different people in for about 3 or 4 days, one a month over the course of the semester to talk to us about the theme, Whose Mind Is It Anyway? So that's the upcoming stuff. So what I want to do now is quickly share with you how we do things here at ReggieCon. I've asked each of the panelists to pick their favorite frame, page, theme, whatever it is from the graphic novel. They've sent it to me. I've put it in a slideshow. I'm going to show the image, give them about 2 or 3 minutes to tell us why they love that frame, how it spoke to them, and then we'll all talk about it. And we don't sit here and talk about the plot in terms of in a linear way. We talk about it more in terms of how it moved us and our experiences with it. So usually I don't go first. However, I told you I have some shared Chicago knowledge, and I have to say this frame blew me away because the greatest place in the world is the Green Mill in Chicago. And if you want to get to the Green Mill in Chicago, you take the red line until you get to the Lawrence ramp, which you talked about more than once in the book. And then in this section of the book, it talks about them going through the underground tunnels. And they come up where you call it the mill, but I have to believe it was the Green Mill because this image that they're sitting in the upper right in the circular couches, that's exactly what they have at the Green Mill. So I don't know if there's copyright I violate when I ask you to talk about that anything, Emil, but am I anywhere near the ballpark on that image?
Yeah, absolutely. That's Capone's booth. I mean,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, it had to be.
Had to be.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much that's good in the Green Mill. And I just some people came into town. They were actually, when the book got published in French, the French actually sent a little envoy, a little group, the French publisher, and they wanted to go, of course, around Uptown. So I took them to the Green Mill, and there was an amazing jazz musician playing there just at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, as though,
Yes.
I mean, somebody who should be, highly celebrated, but there was just, doing a little set. And
Yes.
it blew them away. And they got to sit in Capone's booth. They got to be a part of the scene and feel it. And it was so cool. Yeah, it's
that sounds incredible.
Yeah.
I was actually there Friday night, but I had to stand up for the first set, and I don't like to be at the Green Mill standing up. It's not a rock concert. I want to sit in the booth and listen to music. So anyway, I saw. What's that?
What did you hear?
So I saw a quartet. All I remember is that Dana Hall was playing the drums. And if anybody knows Dana Hall, he's just an amazing Chicago drummer. I've seen him there 4 or 5 times. He's just a show in and of himself. Just everything's coming out on the drums. I could talk about jazz drums for an hour, but I have people here who want to talk about my favorite thing is Monsters Book 2. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to share my screen again. And then I'm going to go to this image. And I think that's Farhia's.
Yeah, that is mine. So I originally read volume one in a comics course in during my like English minor for my undergrad. And so then like reading this one again years later was um very like lovely to do so and like being able to have those bookends of two different experiences as like I'm finishing up my undergrad and then finishing up here. And so in this specific sequence, Karen was previously reflecting on a story of when she first shared that she wants to marry a woman to her mother. And then along with that, thought about an experience of saying, I want to buy a jean jacket. And in this, it really hit me as someone who has also been in a position of having religious family, specifically parents, and then having to figure out ways to showcase a certain identity that I thought was really important. And the idea of, oh, it's just a jean jacket, but like the idea of like being able to showcase a message and how do you showcase, oh, this is my queerness on display in a way that is comfortable but is not overt. And the last piece really just like the whole thing of like the fight and then the hug at the end. Love the way that it's showing the guilt and relief that she is feeling in the fact of I feel guilty that I feel that I am relieved that I don't have to hide that aspect of myself anymore. And just it just spoke to me so much like individually in my own identities, and really feeling how Karen is feeling in this moment. I think like this book ending, I think my favorite sequences are when like I think you just do such a beautiful job of showcasing the like past and like little like the trying to figure out like just like the way that like past experiences, memories. Thank you. That was the word, memories. And so I think anytime there's like a memory sequence, I really love the way that you have it book ended or the way that you use bubbles and orient it in a way where it's very clear this is a memory and this is how she's reflecting in the memory. So this is just what I chose.
It's so important to me that you tell me these things because I didn't know if I handled it, but I thought to myself when I made this page particularly, it's such a full circle experience for me as an artist because I had the same experience reading Alison Bechdel's books and others, and as a kid reading Linda Berry, and just how weird I felt all the time and as a young adult. And she did, all of these different artists set me free in different ways to accept my weirdness and to be like, okay, my parents taught me to love myself, but I can see that they will not be able to love this aspect of me. But they gave me the gift of teaching me something about what it would be to love myself. So I'm going to do that even though they cannot love this part of me. And that's a victory. It's not, I think in their best moment, that's what they would want, right? Even though in their worst moments, they would be completely snagged on all their fears and anxieties and all their, all of what they've been propagandized about, because it's not love. The things that they have are, and it's just this weird moment when you can divide those two things, when you can see your parents or whomever, your society, and say, okay, here's where you're capable of love, but here's where you're only capable of fear. And like being able to see those two things clearly, it's just so healing because then you realize they're just people who cannot pronounce judgment on you. You're an autonomous being. And it's so wonderful that you've done this. You're so clearly intelligent about how you're doing it. And it's just it's what has to be done. And boy, I'm glad that you clearly have support in your life for the changes you have to make to reveal yourself, to unroll yourself in the world. And you just keep that going, and it's always, I think it's always painful, but I think that's good. You know what I mean? Like it's courageous to be yourself, even when the cost is that you won't win the approval of the people you love. I really love that you took
Um,
that page. Thank you.
Yeah, Kelly or Maisha, you want to respond to
Can you
that? You
pull the
guys just
image
jump
back?
in if you want to.
Can
Oh
you
yeah,
pull the
hold
image
on.
back up, Scott? Yeah.
Yeah,
So, I mean, I love the narrative. Well, not, I can't say love, but you know, the narrative or the parallel rather of the supernatural or monsters to queer artists and authors is something that is pretty frequent in queer literature and queer artistry. And so when I was first reading the first book, and you know, within the first few pages, we realized she's not actually a werewolf. I was a little bummed, like, oh, I really wanted her to be a werewolf. I really wanted that to be what this was about. But then, of course, it went in the beautiful trajectory it was. So I go over that real fast. But this page in particular, especially for a queer youth at that age and that time frame, like this to me just is such a poignant moment because on the surface, it's sort of juxtaposition of the two responses we're afraid of when we reveal these identities of ourselves to people we love. In the background, we have sort of the non-acceptance, and in the foreground, it looks like that we have acceptance. But you can see on Karen's face, I think she's even lonelier in the front than she is in the back, because in that moment, what's been accepted is the fact that we're just not going to talk about this again, because this is not something we're ever going to come to a common ground on. And I'm still going to love you, my daughter, because you are my daughter, but we will never speak of this again. And Karen has to accept that in order to maintain the relationship with her mother, that's how this has to be. And as a child, especially a 10-year-old, you can't project into the future to think about that autonomy you were just talking about, Emil, and how you're going to be as an adult. It's very much in that moment. And so I mean, there's a sadness to her mother's face as well. But to me, Karen's emotionality in this is just so palpable because it's I took the risk and what I was afraid and thought was going to happen, is going to happen. And then to your point, Farhia, like, and now sort of feeling that guilt because now I can fully be myself because I don't have sort of this cap on me anymore is a really hard thing to wrestle with at any age who's a loved one, but especially for Karen. So yeah, this is just a beautifully heartbreaking scene that you've illustrated here.
I appreciate you saying that. I do. I really do. Anyway, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry for jumping in because I think Kelly kind of put another piece that I was thinking about, like, because you were showcasing like the monster as the other. And I think the aspect of what's so poignant with any of the memory scenes is Karen still drawing herself as the monster, as the werewolf, and seeing the way that her mom saying it's just a phase you're passing through, but it's not a phase when she is explicitly drawing herself as this, and it's not that she is going to change. And putting herself and recognizing, no, this is who I am. I am a monster. I am other. And the way that she gets to write her narrative, she's challenging her mom saying this is just a phase.
It's so interesting that we're talking about this now, and I really appreciate it because as I move forward with Karen, and I'm talking, you know, I'm doing a prequel right now. I'm working literally on the part that deals with the first time that she is allowed to cross-dress in her neighbor's apartment. It's this relationship with Anka, and it is so freeing and so delicious and so exciting and such a relief. And I remember it very, very, I remember it very clearly. And I'm just looking at what you're saying and thinking about this moment. And, you know, the one thing that I don't have in this 20 pages, and you're going to make it happen now because you've brought my attention to this. I have only used textual language to talk about her fears around Mama's disappointment that I'm doing this. But I'm really thinking that I have to do a transformative, what's the word, 2-page spread, I guess you could say, about her doing this, knowing how much pain this will give her mother, and that division between, that parallel division between, this is really who I am, and it gives me a great deal of pleasure and satisfaction. It feels right. And I know how much pain and this is going to cause this person whom I love. And that the fact that those two things can live together, I think we're amazing. Human beings are incredible because they can have those two things in the same place. And I think that's kind of when you said, Kellie, that you divide. I think it was you, wasn't it? Or was it the pain you saw and the division? That's what I have to bring. And you kind of answered. I kept looking at this page and thinking, or these 2 pages and thinking, what's missing? And now you've told me what's missing. I appreciate that. That will affect, you'll know when you get the next book, God willing, that you changed it, both of you, because this is definitely what I need. So thank you. The world is weird, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Maisha, did you want to say something? I don't mean to put you on the spot. I just want to make sure
you're
everybody gets to
fine.
say something. Okay.
No, so
Go ahead.
I was reading both book 1 and book 2 one after another, sort of like this. So I kind of like had a continuation of the story. So because Farhia, I didn't want to actually talk about this at first, but because Farhia like picked up panel, so I felt like I should share my experience with this panel. So like I loved. I got really emotional with every panel that showed like Karen's like coming out story and like how her conversation with her brother and like how she thought she could have a conversation with her mother and stuff like that. Because I come from a very religious family and I come from a different country where like being something other than what society wants you is like a crime and you can get killed. So like, and I kind of have the similar experience with my mother, what Karen had here is that one time I kind of like tried to portray this to my mom that like maybe I'm something else that she is not expecting me to. And she kind of like shutted me down at that time. And she didn't even want to understand it. So like when I was reading this panel, I got really emotional. I was crying and like my friend wasn't like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm just like, I just read something that kind of resonated with me a lot. So yeah, like I like stories that kind of like makes me like talks about things that are hard to express in any other way. So I just wanted to like say thank you to you because like this is something like here like Karen is like Karen's mom actually didn't accept her being a queer. So but like actually if she has, so that's why like this is more I think powerful that you can still live with that thing. It can hurt you, but you can still live with it. So that's what I wanted to share. That's it.
I think you're all of you, all people who do this, who live with this are very courageous. And I just want to tell you, I want to howl with you. I mean, let's howl.
There you
I think
go.
we got to howl tonight. I don't know.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So you and I got to have a conversation about a week ago, and I raised the issue of cosmic bliss. This is what I mean, right? Cosmic bliss is not cocaine. Cosmic bliss is not candy. Cosmic bliss is painful beauty. And usually the most beautiful stuff entails pain because it requires agency and that euphoria of moving through, caught up with the pain of what you've had to do to get there, is only way you can get it is to push through. Right? You can't get that by taking cocaine. You can't get that by drinking alcohol. You have to exert your identity, push the world, and get hurt, all in the name of being yourself. And that's what I'm after with the concept of cosmic bliss and listening to all of you talk. I think that's what's going on here. It's fantastic.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
That's
cocaine. Go ahead, I'm sorry. Yeah, there you go. There you go. I think we'll go ahead and go to our next image. And this is Maisha's.
Yeah, it is mine. Okay. So like I picked this panel because I went through a somewhat similar experience recently about something that happened in my country. So I come from Bangladesh, and during the summer, I went back home to visit my family, and my country kind of went on a civil war, and it was like a horrible situation there. So internet was shut off and everything. I was not able to like connect. I was not even sure if I was able to come back to USA or not. It's like this kind of issues were happening. So at that time, like what I kind of felt like what I had, like what I kind of like had a choice. Like I had my visa, I can leave my family, I can leave everyone, I can come to USA. And that's the choice I definitely made, like because I'm here right now. But during that time, I was going through a lot of conflict. I had a conversation with Scott at one point that like I was like conflicting, like, should I stay home with my family and help them do things, or should I just like make my decision and come to USA and help them from there? So when I was reading this panel, and it kind of reminded me of that when like Gabby was like telling that she or they don't want to be part of this criminality, and they don't want to be they were like not accepting that they were leaving so many people behind, but only were able to save some people. And they also don't know if the people that Anka has saved there has a future or not. So, but like, I loved what Anka said. Like, you never asked me to like pick you, or nobody asked me to pick you, save you, or all those other girls. But if you want, you can just go back. And then Gabby kind of like cries and says that like, they cannot actually do that. So I kind of like resonated with that conflict. Like sometimes you have to make a really tough choice then and kind of like move on. Like there are like no good choice in there. You either like do this or do that, and you kind of have to make your peace with it. So this whole panel kind of like felt like that to me, and it was really beautiful to read. Yeah.
Maisha, am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yes.
I really, really beseech you to write everything down. If you haven't yet, I hope you do. But what you've gone through is really seminal, important. I hope you are keeping a journal, because in future times, I think you will be very rewarded by being able to look back, and I suspect other people will as well, because that's such an enormous thing to have gone through. It's foundational to who you will be in the future, that you made the choices you did. And I'm sure they were not at no cost. I am positive of that. Putting myself in the moment here, you know, it's a big moment. And my gosh, after hearing you talk, I almost want to redo it. You know, I want to inject more of what it is that we're talking about, because I think there's so much more to be said there. You've said a lot of it, and I thank you for that. If I have a transcript of this talk, I may, you know, I'm coming out with the second edition. Some of those concepts that you just talked about, the way that you chose to stand on your feet and move forward with your life. And you said the words, make your peace with it. I just think that's really profound. And I think it's beautiful and difficult. And it goes back to what Scott was saying about, you know, cosmic bliss. It's not something that it's hard fought and hard won. It's not something, it's that pain, you know, that you carry forward. And I think it's amazing that you made the choices you have. And wow, that's not a small observation. And I'm very honored that this page touched you in that way.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate all the words that you've said to me. It means a lot. And also really thank you for like writing this book. I was like, after I finished reading this, I texted Scott that like, thank you for suggesting me this book. I think it changed my life. I loved every bit of it. So yeah, like I'm really glad I get to experience this for sure.
Thank you, Maisha, for that energy around the book. I very much appreciate it.
Kellie? Farhia?
So just about the panel, not to detract from this wonderful conversation, but the panel itself, we find out, you know, that Anka is a Holocaust survivor and went through some of the traumas. And there is a certain, I think, story that comes to mind when you hear that about a person, that they survived the Holocaust, and it involves being in the concentration camps. And so the more that we learn about Anka, the more we learn it's not sort of that proscripted narrative, but somehow it's much, much worse. And the more we learn, it's like, how could something that's the epitome of human tragedy and horror somehow become more horrible? And so I don't know whether to congratulate you or condemn you for doing that, but like with every turn of the page of her story, it just got darker and more despondent in a way that I did not even know was possible. And yet she still had this beauty about her, and this sort of this brute survival, and there was no just like she knew what she had to do, but she knew it was the only way to go. And so she wasn't making excuses, she wasn't making light of it. It was, this is what has to happen. But she was still cognizant of other people's reception and sensitive to their identities and their autonomy. So like she is one of the most tragically beautiful or beautifully tragic, pick your poison, characters I think I've ever read, because of this grace that she carries while she is literally walking through every circle of hell imaginable.
So interesting that you talk about her right now, because I'm really writing about her. I just drew this picture of her and Karen lying on the grass, which she at night in her yard, in her garden. And it's so strange that you say all of that to me. And I think it's so wonderful, because I was really thinking, I have, for the last, I'd say 4 or 5 days, I've just been thinking nonstop about her. And, you know, you start with an idea, and you have people in mind who have evoked these thoughts in you, but she has developed quite a bit. And in this prequel, she will be much more, you'll know much more about her than you even do now. And the horrible decision that she makes, I mean, it is a terrible thing to think. I mean, it goes to kind of what you've all been saying, and it's this idea that we make these decisions that are, in this world. It's a fallen world. It's not a world that offers us a 100% perfect, beautiful solution to a problem. Generally, it offers us sticky, messy, dirty, conflicted choices. And she definitely makes one that she will probably, and she does, because I'm living with it now, she will spend the rest of her life not knowing if the choice she made was wrong and did more harm than good. She will never know that. She will only make the choice to give these girls a chance at life, and at what cost. Now that's when, I mean, there are future books that follow forward. They won't be called My Favorite Thing is Monsters, but there will be future books, and then we'll know more. But yeah, it's funny that we're talking about her right now. It seems like the universe said, okay, get smart people together and talk about what you're working on right now, because it's going to help it. So I thank you all for that very much.
I think like just a like small interjection of just the panel. There's like a panel on a page when Shelley first listens to the tapes with Karen. And just thinking of like a meta conversation, kind of what Kelly was saying, like this Anka's gone through such horrible things, and reading about it. And I'm thinking about Shelley as a character who was like, this is a lot. I'm listening, I need a pause. And that being a meta of like us as readers being like, this is a lot, and needing to pause for a moment. And so the way that thinking about how you write Anka and also how we read Anka is such a fascinating thought process.
Well, I had a conversation I appreciate you saying that. And I had a conversation with my daughter, who is just really smart. She's smart, and I owe her a great deal, because it's because of her that I really wrote this book. And she said, this is the book you need to write. And she told me, of all the things you could work on, this is the one, because you have the biggest world here, and you understand this world really well. It's very close to you, which was obvious, right? But not really. It wasn't obvious to me. So she said throughout the genocide that's occurring now, she said many times, and it's breaking her heart. It's been very difficult for her. And I have family in Lebanon, so it's especially difficult for us now. She said, a while back, she said, distress is really the only response to a situation like this. It's the only honest thing. You are distressed, and you have to know that's what's happening and accept that. It's difficult. It's extremely difficult, but you just, you have to embrace the reality of it. And it's extremely hard to do. It's hard to do, and you know, sometimes the devastation, you know, is occurring for innocent people in another place, just terrible devastation. You have to say, okay, I'm still going to grab these eggs out of the refrigerator and put them on the counter and break them and make an omelet, even though at this moment, you know that someone is trying to find their child in rubble. And the only thing they've ever done all their lives is wake up every day and try to take care of their family. And this is what they're dealing with now through no fault of their own. Because of colonization and the desire for some folks to colonize other folks. And this has been going on. I mean, we live with it here. We live with it. You know, this is what, you know, very, very succinctly and profoundly, that's what otherworlding, the other world, you know, the othering of, that you speak of in the video of your San Diego talk is really talking about. I mean, that's really a facet of this. So yeah, it's a difficult time, I think, for a lot of us. It's something that that is with us. I don't think it leaves us. I think we know. And so, but that distress is real, and she is so smart, and we have to just, the somberness of it is something that, you know, is here. I bring it here right now because I think to do anything else is a lie. And it's very much the way we say what ground we're standing on when we begin a talk. You know, we say, I'm in Potawatomi country, and, you know, we recognize the fact that there were people here before a colonizing force massacred them all, or most of them, you know. So I'm saying that, and I wish I wasn't, but here we are.
I just quickly want to talk about this same frame, this same idea. You mentioned Anka's never going to be able to know or feel like she made the right choice, right? And those moments, you know, my situation I'm going to describe is not nearly anything as difficult as what Anka went through. But when you're department chair for 15 years and you have to hold people's careers in your hand and make say yes or no things, and I am telling a story, and I promise I'm getting to a point. When the job's over, it's hard to settle in, did I do it well? Because there's so many disappointments and so many achievements. But my colleagues celebrated me at an alumni day event over a week ago, and it changed everything. What Anka doesn't have in her life is someone that's that's going to change the weights in her memory. She doesn't have someone that's going to tell her.
Right.
So, you know,
it's really, I think I've known many, actually, sadly, many Holocaust survivors. And the most recent one whom I knew had not revealed to her family how devastating her experience had been until she got quite old. And this is really common. There are many people who go through this and they simply can't. It's so devastating. The horror that they have experienced is so beyond description and just to bring it up, they live as though it never occurred. And I don't think that's who she is. She tells stories, and this prequel, she is telling the story of her experience to Karen through a parallel narrative that is not the narrative that happened, but you as the reader will, of course, know. She can't tell a child this story. And she can't do it because she's sensitive and humane. So she tells another story. And I have been enjoying doing this, but I've been crying through the whole thing. because of the people I knew who, like Anka, had to have canned food in their bedroom, had to have glasses of water near their bed, had experienced such devastating thirst and hunger for years that they had to live in this quasi crisis way. And she doesn't have anyone. You know, we begun to see in the prequel that nobody really understands the trauma she's experienced. And the problem was, at that point in 1968, there had not been a real full understanding of how truly horrible the Holocaust experience had been. We were not at that point yet. There was not a full embrace of really how, I mean, and how would there be? I mean, I don't even think there has been a full embrace now. I don't think we've ever really embraced the horror of that. And so, with respect, I mean, I'm adding to that because I think we're getting to a point where we think we don't need to do that any longer, but we do. And I'm so glad you had people who were able to celebrate you and to recognize you. But, you know, she doesn't, she has Karen, but she has the reader, that she has you. She has, in the future, she has the people who will read her story. And there's some beauty in that, because the people who told me the stories of their survival and trusted me and me alone with some of this, I didn't give their name, I didn't put a spotlight on them, but I synthesized all of that, and it's Anka. And so, in a way, their stories are living beyond them. And for me, it's a small victory, but it's the only one I can have.
Well, again, someone's listening. That's, you know, I mean, suicide rate among military veterans is
Too high.
because people can't feel it, you know. There's one other thing, and I don't want to, I'm sorry if I'm not changing the topic. It's the same frame. But one of the things I love about frames like this, pages like this, is, as Maisha said on Anka's reaction, where she said, well, I'll tell them that you want to stay if you want to. What Anka's not doing there is raging at her and yelling at her, right? Because Anka's not in a state to take care of this woman's well-being at the moment. She's got young ladies she's trying to get out of there. She's up to here with anxiety. And I love the fact that cool, calm, and it may sound sarcastic, but it's the best you're going to get out of anybody at a moment like that. And I think it's important people feel these kind of things, you know, through reading and such, because I have a little saying I use, pick your pain. And if you can, you're living a good life, right? In other words, a lot of the stuff that we go through, particularly in consumer capitalist culture, is about pleasure seeking. It's about self-actualization, Maslowian individualism, that is basically set up to allow people to ignore the suffering. And so when I tell people, pick your pain, they think I'm a cynic, right? And it's no. You're not going to escape pain as a living being, but and if you get to pick it, you're living a good life.
That's an interesting thing. You've said that to me in our last conversation, and I found it something that really held with me, and I've thought about it a great deal more since. And yeah, I think there's truth there. There's so much truth there. I think it's a much bigger statement than can be made in a few words. It feels like it's many stories worth of statement, you know?
Yeah. Anka saying, yo, pick your pain. Pick your pain now, right? Because I'm picked mine, okay? I got to live with this for the rest of my damn life.
Yes.
But don't bug me about picking your own pain. No, I just love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Let me see who's next here. I think this is Kelly, the
rabbit.
The rabbit.
Yeah.
There we go.
Oh gosh. So when Scott said to pick your favorite, I was like, how am I going to, in these 400 plus pages? This is like, pick your favorite minute of the day. And then I came on this page and I was like, donezo. So I could talk about this page forever. So I'll try to pick out just a few of the things that stick out the most for me. First of all, everything that's going on for Karen up until this point, this is about 2/3 way through the book. She is feeling lost and alone and isolated. She doesn't know where she can go. She doesn't know who she can turn to. But in that moment of isolation, she actually does find someone. And it's just an encapsulation of the community that she's built of all of these others and all of these people who aren't related by blood, but are related by the fact that they are misunderstood and misfits in some regards. Because she ends up at Jeffrey, or the Brain's house, who is someone that she kind of considers weird and quirky, and there's this mystery to him as well. And he is hesitant to let her in, but he does. And so she has found safety and sanctuary during this tumultuous time. I'm also a veterinary technician. I love animals. And so the way that you have drawn the connection between Karen and the rabbit here, Raygun, especially knowing that animals historically haven't really liked Karen. So that moment between the two of them, but also that look on Karen's face, that is pure, that is cosmic bliss. She is just present in that moment. She is feeling every fur on that rabbit. She is feeling him breathe. She is listening to his art. She is just there with him. And she has found comfort and solace in this creature because they are vibing on the same energy. They are both going through the loss of her mother together in that moment. And just the connection that they have is just so beautiful. Like it's just such a beautiful visual depiction of the spiritual connection that those two creatures are experiencing in that moment. But the thing that made it like check mark, this is my absolute favorite, is because you talk about psychopomps. And I am like a psychopomp fanatic. I have multiple tattooed on me because they are the ultimate misunderstood creature. These are entities that bring you from one realm of existence to the next. They didn't kill you. They're not responsible. They're actually doing you a favor by ensuring you're not alone as you traverse from what you've known to what you don't. But we always regard, in cultures, generally they're regarded as evil or bad omens or whatnot, when in reality, they're like the BFF you didn't know you had until you needed someone there for you. And in this moment, Karen needs someone there for her. And even though Raygun was, as the Brain says, her mom's psychopomp, in this moment, Karen doesn't need a psychopomp per se, but she does need that connection and that just that physical and spiritual recognition that there is someone that sees you. You are validated. You are here. You are present. You are worthy. And again, I could go on forever, but I'll stop.
It's beautiful, and I'm so happy you got that because that's what I wanted people to get. And I didn't know if, I really debated about, really defining the concept of psychopomp, but I wanted people to grasp that because it tells of a benevolence in the universe towards us in our struggles. And I have to say, I love it when there's mercy. I need so much of it as an entirely flawed human being, that when I experience concepts of mercy within the way the world works, I mean, just trees, the fact that I sense that trees really do know us. I've had instances where I've felt their benevolence towards me, and the animals, without any doubt, I've experienced that. And I just think, what would be the anodyne in a moment when you'd seen your brother actually break all the laws of human goodness and put a gun into somebody's mouth? What would you need to be whole again, or even to be on the road towards wholeness after seeing that? And to me, it was this moment. It was to be loved by a creature who had formerly wanted to bite you, and to be, like you say, because animals have not always liked Karen. And it was something really gentle and tender. This animal is sensing that she needs this moment. And I think, wow, they're so smart. Creatures are so smart. And it's nice that it's a creature on creature moment too. So, I mean, I like that you chose this page. This was one of those moments where I really cried for Karen, and I felt, and I'm so happy you chose it. And yeah, thank you.
Maisha, Farhia?
And the other thing I want to say about this is I had to think about what to put in the background. And to me, it was like books are worlds, they're doors through which you walk. And I don't necessarily divide this moment between the books, which represent a kind of a head learning or academic learning. I kind of say more, here's another world. The psychopomp, the mention of the travel, like you so rightly said, being moved between a place you know and a place you don't know. I love how you put that. And that books are essentially also that they're essentially psychopomps, the way they take us from a place we know to a place we don't know. I kind of liked the wholeness of the moment.
I mean, that is exactly what I would think Jeffrey's apartment looks like. Exactly that. Like there's just wall to wall. But also too, I like the way that Karen dove into into paintings, I really dove into a lot of the pages of your books. And this was one of them where I'm trying to read the titles on the books and it almost looks like they're words, but they aren't, which gives that sort of a dreamlike quality to it. Because like that's a hallmark of a dream, right? You can't exactly read what's on there, but you know that there's writing. And that again adds to the element of what a psychopomp is, because dreams are in between states of consciousness sometimes. And so it just adds another layer to that spirituality of
That's an
Reggie's.
interesting and astute observation. And I mean, I am so obsessive about details. I could imagine myself labeling each of these books, but thankfully I did not have the time. I have a Virgo moon, so it's all over.
Yeah,
Anyone else?
I think kind of we were talking about Emil, how like the creature on creature-ness in this specific, like they are seeing each other, and it goes back to Kellie's definition of like psychopomps as things that people, because they help guide, are ascribed as negative. They're ascribed as something to be fearful of. And I see the same thing with the aspect of how your analogy of monsters in this book, of like the monster as the other, and it's not the monster inherently isn't something to be fearful of, and it is the fear that's being ascribed based on how people are viewing these specific people in ways of, because they are different, they are to be feared, and because psychopomps are guides of death, they are to be feared. And so I love seeing the aspect of like that creature on creature recognition and support from one another.
That's really an interesting observation. I think that's very astute and very true. There is this, and the more I think we're coming to a time. I mean, think about this moment, this conversation we're having. This is not a conversation that would have been had 30 years ago.
Mhm.
It just isn't. I think we're evolving in some really special and important ways as human beings. It's just we're also seeing the greatest darkness at this moment when we're really striving to unite spiritually with each other in certain positive ways. We're seeing the darkness really try to corrupt that effort, and I don't think it's not going to win. I don't believe it will win. I believe that
No, it's not going to win.
no.
No, that doesn't mean things won't get worse for a bit. And I honestly think that some things will get worse for a bit. But as I don't mean to be abstract, y'all, but as a systems theorist, the culture is going through a phase transition, and states of order are pulling each other in the same system, and it violently oscillates.
Yeah.
And as it violently oscillates, that diagnostic that it's about to find resolution. And I can't in me believe that a certain way of being human is going to win out in the United States. It may take years, but I'm slow burn optimistic. I'm a Midwesterner, right? But you look at all the data, right? You look at, like you said, the conversation we're having here, the conversations we're seeing in places that we've never seen them before. Is also one of the reasons why things are getting so much darker as well, because certain people know they're not in that future of that conversation. And that's just fear, and it fuels the phase transition. But there's no but, it's and. No, I'm totally there with you guys on that. Anyone else on that image? All right, then we're going to go to mine. I cheated. Because I already cheated once. I don't know how many times I get to cheat, but I didn't cheat. I just used these two. Because she's walking into Anka's room with the dead plants. Anka's secret room with its magical pyramid was no longer green. It was a sick yellow and brown. Anka had always given me dead leaves to draw, and she taught me that there is great beauty even in death. So what shot me through the heart here is I'm looking at that page, and then I go to this next one, and how dare you put a sunflower in the middle of that page? I grow sunflowers to the point they get 12 feet tall. And the sunflowers, I take pictures of my sunflowers all the time, and I take just as many of them as they're dying as when they are blooming. And that idea that there's beauty in death is just so antithetical to the way most of the world talks. And so then, however, the text on that page with the sunflower is about this horrible guy, right? So there's just wonderful continuing juxtapositions. And what that does to me as a reader is slam me through emotional states fairly systematically in ways I could never do myself, right? That's why I go to the Green Mill. I go sit in front, I get there early, get my seat in front, and let them give me a brain massage because they can do things to my brain that I can't do to myself. And reading stuff like this just bangs my brain around. And I'm totally there for all of it. I felt you were talking to me when you put the sunflower in the middle of all that and talked about the beauty and death. I don't have more to say about the page other than that, but I had to pick one, and I usually let all the other panelists pick theirs first so that I don't, so no one had picked these, so I picked those. But that's what I wanted to say about those pages.
Going to what we've been talking about, I appreciate this page because when I was creating the one well, I can talk about pyramids endlessly. There's a lot of science behind pyramids that people don't know about. You all probably do. You probably know a lot about pyramids, but the general public doesn't know how effectively they do energetic things. As a matter of fact, the Czechoslovakian company manufactured a pyramidal structure that you could put your razor blades in the 1920s because it sharpened them. I have not done that experiment, but fruit doesn't rot as quickly if it is put in a pyramidal structure. So there is something to be said about what the structure is. And there's a lot of experimentation, especially in Russia, about it, where they build pyramids and use them in various ways. I would recommend that anybody do their research on pyramids because they're fascinating. But the second page, the right-hand page, the reason that it is the way it is because, and you don't know this because I don't think they ever use this particular, there's another drawing, another version of the Karen head, and that is with the third eye open. And I don't know that it ever got used anywhere. I'm not sure if it's part of the book. I can't remember. I don't think I put it in. But this is, I'm alluding to a wisdom, to this concept of the third eye. It isn't immediately on her head, but it's, you see her two eyes, and then you see the sunflower is almost a third eye. And I wanted that kind of moment. It's subtle. It's not particularly obvious, but I wanted that in there because she's talking about the wisdom, or she's communicating the wisdom, Karen is, that she received as a result of hearing Anka's story. And Anka's story was also a communication of this sorrowful wisdom that she obtained by enduring this relationship with this man who was very, cultured and probably had a massive library and in a place where she learned a lot. But she also learned, more importantly, she learned about human nature. She learned that he had to possess her and that she had to be young and that she couldn't be something that was getting close to death. She had, so I'm talking about kind of this part of him, this pedophilic part of him that required her youth. And so I'm showing the sunflower at that moment. And it's kind of, I did toyed with the idea of drawing a large dying sunflower, but it wouldn't have communicated the same thing. Although in future books there will be plenty of dead things, because I love drawing dead. I love drawing dead sunflowers. I love drawing dead leaves. I enjoy them. They're the most beautiful. I think I might have one. I have a box with a beautiful dead leaf. If you would like me to, it will be drawn. It's a shoebox, but you have to take really good care of the dead leaves because they come apart easily. But they're sculptural. They're just absolutely gorgeous. But anyway, I'm
awesome.
pleased that you chose this. Thank you.
Well, you're more than welcome. My pleasure. Anyone else want to comment on this image while I got it up?
The library page, like I could smell it, right? Like I grew up, my dad, his whole side are gardeners, plants, like so I've grown up with a lot of exposure to indoor and outdoor plants, and like I can smell the dead plantness that's coming off of this photo. But like Scott, I really appreciate the perspective you provided that there's beauty in death. And I also have a connection with trees, and I often tell folks that I think that trees in hibernation are, or quote unquote dead trees, are more beautiful than when they have leaves, because there is a certain integrity and to them, and that's sort of their barest form. And I won't go into more here, but I remember I was in Wisconsin with a friend of mine in the winter, and we were walking through a park, and he just sort of looked up and he said, I think you're right. Dead trees really are beautiful.
Yeah.
And like, I just never stopped to look at them before and take it that way. And sometimes just pointing out the shift in perspective, or just like not even flicking a switch, but just showing someone that there's another direction that exists, is really all it takes for someone to realize like, oh, I can see this in a different way, or there is something of value to offer. And it's really true. There is beauty in death, and death comes for all of us. It is the great equalizer. As I like to say, all men are cremated equal. And so it's you have to find beauty. There's beauty in all things, right? It's the duality of life, and of course death. I just appreciate you calling attention to that and really demonstrating it throughout the entirety of this narrative, because death is like the unwritten character, or the one we never see physically manifest, but he is there.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. I like that quote too. I will not steal it, but it's so beautiful. You got to write something. All men are cremated equally. I like that very much. Karen enjoys that tremendously.
Maisha, Farhia, anything on that frame? That's fine. Perfectly fine. Okay. Well, it's about 10 after 8. If anyone out there watching would like to submit a question, please do so. At the moment, I'll ask my panelists if they have something else that they'd like to say. I'm sitting here with the book,
Me too.
so I can sit here and
I have something to
rummage
say.
through. Yeah, go ahead.
So when I was reading this book, as I said before the panel started, that I miss Illinois a lot, and Chicago is like one of my favorite places to be. And when I was reading this whole book, and Art Museum is like my favorite place. I've been there 3 times, and I just love that place so much. So like when I was like reading this book, and like Karen and her brother, when we were like roaming through the art museum and kind of like seeing those photos. And I remember myself that I also spent quite a bit of time in front of the Dorian Gray photo, and it was a really good experience for me. So I was kind of like reliving my memories of like going through the art museum, or like walking through the Chicago road through that. So it was pretty good.
Did you have a chance yet to see the movie Dorian Gray? It's a really...
Yes, I've seen that one. Yes.
Okay.
I loved Oscar, like I love the picture of Dorian Gray, the book, so I kind of like everything related to it. So yeah.
That's really great. I mean, yeah, of course, you're a brilliant person, so you're going to read the book as well as see the movie, which is great. I really enjoy the museum as well, and I enjoy that particular painting. But there are a couple other paintings that are not on display now for no reason I know. One of them, it just has a hand reaching out from a door, and I think you might know it has a remorseful title to it, but it's very beautiful, and it has a lot of dead flowers for you.
There you go.
Dead flowers, which I think you might enjoy.
I think that was like thinking about it too. Like I read the first book, because I think besides the other panelists, like I was one of the few who who read the first one a while ago. And so reading the first one in, I think, 2018, and I was in New York at the time. And then reading now with one time being different. And so like it'd be so interesting how it was reading it back to back for both Maisha and Kellie, but also living in Illinois and having like a lot, even though I'm in central Illinois, but having a connection. I visited Chicago more often, being able to have more friends and family within the city of Chicago, to be able to make connection points that I didn't nor did the class that I was in New York had. So it was very fascinating being able to read it while being in Illinois. So yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I have nothing more to say. Just I love it that people are able to go places and see some of the things that are in the book. I think it gives me a lot of joy that they do. Anyway, what were you going to say?
Well, I have to admit that as I was reading book 2, I knew that Maisha was going to enjoy the Chicago scenes because I know that she loves to go to Chicago. I know wasn't aware that she liked the art museum, but what I love about it is these little secret bubbles in our own experiences that come up that we think about other people. So for example, when I read the bit about the mill, I said, get out of here. There's nobody else on the planet that knows the Green Mill except maybe a few thousand people in Chicago. But it's exactly what you meant. And I found it very easy to put myself in those places. And even though I know it's a Capone speakeasy, I've never experienced the trauma of the Capone era while I'm in there. But next time I go, I'll write a poem about it and I'll talk about it because it's a magical place and you captured the magic. It's just beautiful.
It is interesting, and it will be in future material, but there's a statue in the Green Mill
Yes.
of Saris, and we know that she has this underground component. And there is, of course, a massive underground network of and tunnels underneath the Green Mill that unites many things. So all of that is based in fact. And it's interesting,
Yeah, I love it.
This underground, this statue, and what she's holding in her hands, what she cups in her hands, you can't see. I mean, what is it?
Yeah. I also appreciated, and I'm sorry to keep going on about the Green Mill, y'all, but it really is a sanctuary. And you mentioned, as you were talking about it earlier, I go into that place, I pay my $20, and I see people that live the life that I chose not to, right? I mean, they practice every day. And I just thank God there are people that live that life because I didn't. It's just a blessing to be able to find stuff like that. But you got to get there early, man. Otherwise, you're going to be back by the bar and you can't see anything.
Yeah, that's right. And there's some wonderful things about uptown Chicago still. There really are. Yeah, I'm in Milwaukee right now, so I kind of miss it. But it's okay. I'm discovering Milwaukee. It's all right.
Yeah, Milwaukee's a cool town.
It is.
I didn't spend much time there, but I've been through it, and it's very beautiful parts of it.
Yeah.
Okay, panelists, any other final words, final questions, final comments? It's perfectly fine if the answer is no. I just want to make sure everybody.
I want to say something. I just want to say thank you for this conversation. I think you will find out that the conversation, you'll be able to look in the prequel that I'm working on now, and you'll see some of the concepts that you talked about have added a depth to my perception of the book. It's unusual when you're writing a book that you get to talk to super intelligent people who know your work and can weigh in, and it's a gift to me, and I mean it. It's a gift to me, and I appreciate it, and I will be harvesting like a little crow with shiny objects. I will be snagging your brilliant thoughts, and they will be infused in the book, and so you can look for it and see it. it'll be there.
That's very, very kind of you. I have to tell you, the purpose of ReggieCon is to be able to have these hour-and-a-half long after dinner conversations that have spontaneity in them, maybe a disagreement, but it's the human condition writ large. And, one of the things, this is my form of resistance against, our decreasing attention span. People will watch it, people won't watch it. I remember when I came to ISU in 2001, a colleague and I, so I didn't know him, but, we were talking and he was discouraged that, the field wasn't reading his work. And I said, well, dude, you just got to fight the fight. You got to get it out there, because if you don't agree with what's going on and no one's doing the work, you got to get it out there, just let it float and figure out if someone takes it somewhere or whatever. So just doing the work, showing the love and making it happen, right? In the end, I don't want to say what else is there, but the point of ReggieCon is to model this kind of behavior, to be honest, because I just don't see enough of it.
No, and we're really, really, I'm very shocked by the idea that I've heard forwarded that we want to do away with the First Amendment. I mean, my gosh, that's the worst thing we could possibly do. That's our future. And it is the First Amendment, because nothing can exist without it. If we can't express our individual opinions about things, then we're living under tyranny. And it doesn't mean that we're right. It doesn't mean that we're right.
We ain't asking for being right? We're just asking to be able to have the conversation.
But who decides what is right? If you decide, if we decide as a country that there's somebody who's going to decide for us what the truth is, and that we all have to ascribe to that, then we're doomed. Then we're under tyranny. That's a fact. That's how it either works because we can all say what we believe, and there have to be beautiful forums like this where people can gather and think about things, talk about, and maybe that will expand. Maybe this is a seed, and there will be more hunger for it. I mean, that's what I hope, and I think that must be what all of you hope, because you're here.
Colleagues, please feel free to jump in. I think in order to make something successful, you have to enjoy the moment of what you're doing. Uh-oh, no, you don't have to join.
Yeah, Kelly's, we can't hear Kelly.
You can't hear you.
They're trying to talk.
I'll finish what I'm saying and you go ahead and find the mute. But I enjoy these conversations. Honestly, this is what I live for. I do a podcast called Dark Loops Productions, and it's there to just restore good old-fashioned long-winded nuance. I'm so bored of, whatever the world wants to sell in terms of short attention span theater. So whoever, it's there. And my point is then do the work. It's out there. If you don't do the work, it's not out there. So thank you for helping us do the work and get it out there. Appreciate it. Kelly, can you available? Can you?
You can't hear me, can you?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, okay, great. So I just wanted to ask you a quick question, Emil, and I have a feeling the answer is going to be yes, but I just want to make sure. There are a couple of points in this book where Karen said something to the effect of, I'll explain this later, or I hope I get to tell this story later. Do we find out in the prequel what happened to Blemmy's head?
We find out Blemmy is a part of the prequel.
Okay.
But there's so much more, Karen. There's so much more. There's many more books coming, and some prequel, some books that follow on in terms of, Karen's not done. She's not done.
Yeah.
Which I did mention. I mean, it's hard to howl. Would we break things if we howled right now?
So I'll tell you what, on my podcast, I have a habit of ending the podcast with the following phrase. So there it is, from all of us to all of you, big hugs and remember, and then we all agree what we're going to say during that and remember part. So that's a Dark Loops thing, but if we want to transplant it here to ReggieCon, I can do that. And then There it is from all of us to all of you. Big hugs. And remember, I'm perfectly comfortable with joining all of you in a howl. If you'd be interested in doing that. We don't have to say the word. We can just howl. And that'll be our,
Mhm.
go ahead.
No, go ahead. I want to, and that'll be,
Yeah, so what I'll do is, I got some admin I got to do to get the show out, and then we'll save the howl for the end, and that'll be the last thing we do. Is that cool?
all right.
Great.
All right, no, because I don't want to howl and then have to go back and be serious, and read all this stuff. And because when I howl, I'm a howl, y'all, and it's just going to be too fun, and I'm not going to want to do anything else for a while.
Well, yeah, we have
So,
to personally make our choice about whether it's going to be an ow, 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 or what kind of howl are we going for?
well, okay, I
The
appreciate.
howling
Okay, so
rules.
you are in charge of that committee. Please lead us through that decision-making process.
Me?
Yes, you. Yeah.
I don't know. I just want a little is Jana gonna weigh in on this howl by any chance?
Ah,
Well, I think it should be a good one. I mean, make it
Okay.
loud and
All
let
right.
everybody
All
know.
Farhia,
Mhm.
do I say your name correctly?
Yes.
Okay. What kind of howl are you going to give us? Can you just kind of give us a little bit of a preview?
I think I was just thinking like a regular ow, like not the build up, but just like oh yeah.
Yeah, I like that. It has a nice lilt to it. Your howl is really lovely. Kelly, where are we going with a howl?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing too. A little, oh,
Oh, I like that too. That's just
all right.
sexy. You just do that. Okay, Scott.
I'm just going to go with the crowd on this one. Be a sheep. Oh, I might bring a little bass in there, but I do like the extended howl, right?
Okay, well,
And just a quick word of advice. There it is from all of us to all of you. Big hugs, and remember, and then howl on the beat. Don't wait to hear me,
Yeah.
because if we sit there waiting for each other, it just it doesn't work. So I'll
Right.
give you a rhythm coming in the beat. How about you? Go ahead.
Oh, I go with like how Farhia did it. Like, oh, I think that's kind of makes sense to me.
classic.
okay, all right, but I
I'm gonna
like
build it.
Yeah.
Well, then I'll tell you what, I'm going to propose a compromise. There it is from all of us. There it is. Big hugs from all of us. I'm going to get my own thing wrong. So there it is from all of us to all of you. Big hugs, and remember. And then Emil gives us a oh, and then we all come in. Oh,
There you go. Yeah, that works.
I like
does
That
that
sounds
work?
good.
Okay. And then don't wait. Just Emil, give us a rhythm. And we just come in on the beat. So we're not looking at each other trying to figure out who's going to start, because
Well, we've loped through the forest till we're slightly sweaty. The moon has been following us. It's big and round and full. We've just been batting aside branches because we're so fearsome and large and beautiful. And now we're standing in a small clearing together. And so, do you want to say the words? We're all
Okay. Well, yeah, I got to do the admin here. So first of all, I got to read the screen on my phone here because I only have one screen. Please join us for our next ReggieCon happening on Monday, November 4th, where we will have artist illustrator Dale DeForest, and we'll be discussing his comic series, Hero Twins, in celebration of Native American Heritage Month. The indigenous nerd himself, Dr. Lee Francis IV, will be there. Afua Richardson, a graphic artist, an amazing singer, will be there. Our very own Dr. Eric Wesselman will be there. And a folklore student from Ohio State University, Daisy Alstom, will be there as well. So please attend that. We'll post on the internet so you can find out when and where the link will be posted. Kelly, Farhia, and Maisha, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you for having us. It was a pleasure. And thank you, Emil, for your time and for this amazing, amazing journey.
Thank you all. I very much appreciate it. It's lovely having this lovely chat with you. And
Emil, it was once again an absolute blast to have you with us here on ReggieCon, and we look forward to doing it again. Thanks to everyone back there behind the scenes, helping us look like we know what we're doing. And thanks to all of you for joining us on our celebration of LGBTQ+ History Month. So there it is. From all of us to all of you, big hugs. And remember, Okay, you know what? Today's my birthday, y'all. Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Is it really? Are you kidding me?
October 8th, straight up Libra. Absolutely.
Happy
Happy
birthday.
Happy
Thank you
birthday.
very much.
How do
Thank
you
you
say,
very
como
much.
si dice in Italian? Como si dice?
How do you say
I
it?
don't,
I don't know. How do you say it in Italian?
I have no idea. Kelly said that because, full disclosure, I'm actually in Milan, Italy right now at a dystopia conference.
Which is awesome. What a great birthday. You get
Oh my
this, you get that,
gosh.
you get
It's
Italy.
just
Like,
been off the hook for real.
That's
No. It's been very nice.
Wonderful.
And
And
this-
Milan is, I've never been, but I hear it's a wonderful city. Oh my God.
No, I'll be here through the weekend, and just looking forward to watching dystopian sci-fi, giving a talk, and meeting new people. And I really enjoyed tonight's conversation, everyone. Just to the heart, clear and quick, and full of complications. I absolutely love it. So I'm just going to say goodnight to the audience, and then you all can hang around if you like. Goodbye. See you next time.
Bye. Happy birthday.